You can eat outside the building. That is what he said to me, not quietly, not as a suggestion. He announced it like he was doing me a favor, giving me permission to leave the party that I helped prepare for, that I brought a gift to, that I dressed up for, even though my nicest clothes were just clean jeans and a shirt I ironed twice to get the creases right. Why would we waste a chair on you? 23 people in that room, some sitting, some standing by the food, some laughing at something someone said. But when he spoke those words, everything stopped. Not because anyone defended me, because they were all waiting to see what I would do. Whether I would cry, whether I would argue, whether I would just leave like he wanted. I looked at the tables they had pushed together, the white cloth someone draped over them, the plates of food that smelled so good my stomach hurt because I had not eaten since morning. I looked at the people sitting there, people I trained when they started, people who showed up late 3 times a week, people who called in sick on the busiest days and left me to handle double the work. Even Lauren was sitting there. Lauren, who somehow always messed up the orders, and then told the bosses it was my fault. And they believed her because she knew how to smile and laugh at their jokes. I had been there 3 years, 3 full years. When the place was so small, we all knew each other's birthdays. When busy season meant all of us stayed late and helped each other. When the owner still came to the back where we worked and asked if we needed anything. My name is Beth. I am 34 years old. I have a daughter who is 8. Her father left before she was born, so it has always been just us. This job was supposed to be temporary. 3 months, maybe 6, just until I figured out what came next. But 3 months became a year, and a year became 3, because it paid enough to keep us fed and housed, and because I was good at it. I knew every product we packed. I knew which boxes fit which items. I knew how to move fast without breaking anything. I knew the work. Then 6 months ago, the owner brought in his nephew to manage us, to oversee operations, they said, like we were too stupid to understand he was just someone's relative who needed a job. His name was Greg, 26 years old, fresh from somewhere else, full of ideas about how we should work faster, better, smarter. He started changing things, small things at first. He gave me the scanner that took forever to read labels, the one everyone avoided because it added an hour to your day. When I asked for a different one, he said I needed to learn to adapt. He changed my schedule so I had to start earlier, which meant paying my neighbor extra to watch my daughter before school. When I explained that it was hard, he said everyone has responsibilities. He gave me the heaviest loads, the boxes that made your back scream by the end of the day. He saved the easier work for the newer people, said they were still learning. But I had trained most of them. They learned from me. Still, I stayed quiet. I needed the job. I needed the money. I told myself it was temporary. He would get bored. He would move on. Someone would notice. But tonight was different. Tonight was the year-end celebration. They held it every December. One night where they pretended we all mattered the same. They bought food. They gave out little gifts. They made speeches about teamwork and family and how we were all part of something bigger. It was mostly nonsense, but it was one night where we got to sit down, eat something we did not have to cook, and pretend we were not just bodies moving boxes. I brought a gift for the exchange. I spent money I should have saved. I wanted to be part of it. I wanted to feel like I belonged. But when I walked in, Greg looked at me like I had made a mistake just by showing up. He was standing near the food, holding a drink, talking to someone. He saw me, and his whole face changed. Like I had ruined something. He walked over. He looked at the gift in my hands. You can eat outside the building. I did not understand at first. I thought maybe he was joking, the way people joke when they do not mean it. But his face was serious. Why would we waste a chair on you? And that is when I understood. This was not a joke. This was him telling me, in front of everyone, that I did not belong here, that I was not worth a chair, that I could leave. I felt my face get hot. My hands started shaking, so I gripped the gift tighter. I wanted to say something. I wanted to ask why. I wanted to scream at him that I had been here longer than almost anyone, that I worked harder than half the people sitting down, that I deserved to be here. But I did not say any of that, because I knew it would not matter. He had already decided, and no one in that room was going to defend me. So I stood there, holding my gift, feeling every single person looking at me. And that is when something inside me shifted. Not anger, exactly. Anger is hot and fast and makes you do stupid things. This was colder, sharper, This was the feeling you get when you realize that being kind, being quiet, being good at your job means nothing if someone decides you do not matter. I thought about my daughter. I thought about all the times I told her to be polite, to work hard, to treat people with respect. I thought about what I would tell her if someone treated her like this. Would I tell her to accept it? Would I tell her to stay quiet? No, I would tell her to fight back. So I looked at Greg. I looked at his smug face, his expensive watch, his clean hands that had never packed a single box. And I smiled. I said, "Check under your plate." He looked confused. "Good." I turned around and walked out, still holding my gift. I heard someone say something behind me, but I did not stop. I pushed through the doors, walked past the rows of boxes, waiting to be packed tomorrow, and left. My hands were still shaking when I got to my car, but not from fear, from something else, something that felt like power. Because here's what Greg did not know, what none of them knew. I was the only one who handled the special orders, the expensive ones, the ones that rich people paid extra for during the holidays. Custom gift boxes, handmade candles, fancy soaps, all of it packed with care and shipped with notes about how special they were. I had been packing them for 3 years. I read every label. I knew every ingredient. I knew which items sold best. I knew what the customers loved. And I knew something else. Those candles. The ones they charged so much money for. The ones they bragged about being completely safe, made with natural ingredients, perfect for any home. They had changed. Not the candles themselves, the wax. The supplier switched one ingredient 2 months ago to save money. The new version smelled fine when you first lit it, but if you burned it for more than 2 hours, it released something that made people feel sick. Not dangerous enough to cause real harm, but bad enough that anyone using them for a long dinner would end up nauseous and miserable. I knew because I read the labels, because I paid attention, because after 3 years of packing boxes, you start to notice when something changes. And I knew that the owner and Greg both knew about it. I had seen the messages, not because I was spying, because they left papers everywhere, talked openly in the warehouse like we were furniture. They knew the wax was making people sick. They knew customers were complaining. But instead of pulling the product, they decided to sell through the current stock and quietly switch back later. They even paid some bloggers to take down their bad reviews, paid them to stay quiet. They thought no one would notice. They thought it did not matter. Before this party, I had spent 2 weeks preparing something, not out of anger, out of clarity, out of the knowledge that people like Greg only understand consequences. I made cards, simple, printed cards. Each one listed the ingredient change, the name of the supplier, the internal messages I had seen about moving the stock before customers figured it out, the names of the bloggers who had been paid off, everything. I placed one under every plate at the party, under Greg's, under the owner's, under the chairs of everyone who had sat there and watched him humiliate me. But that was not all. Before you keep listening, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being here, for hearing my story. It means more than you know. Tell me in the comments where you are listening from. I want to know who is out there, who is hearing this. Now, back to what happened next. That same morning, before the party, I mailed samples of those candles to people who would actually care. Food writers, consumer safety people, local news reporters who loved stories about businesses hiding problems from customers. I did not lie. I did not make anything up. I just sent them the candles with a note. Burn this for 3 hours and see what happens. I also sent messages to every shop that sold our products. The small stores, the boutiques, the places that trusted us to give them good items. I told them questions were coming. I told them they might want to be ready. I did not do this because I am cruel. I did this because they needed to know what it feels like when someone decides you do not matter. When someone pushes you aside because they can. When someone humiliates you because they think there will be no consequences. Now they would learn. I drove home that night and did not sleep. Not because I was worried, because I was waiting. The next morning, my phone rang early. It was someone from the warehouse. Not Greg, one of the other workers. A woman named Paula, who I had trained when she started 2 years ago. She was whispering, like she did not want anyone to hear. "Beth, what did you do?" I asked her what she meant. "The party. After you left, the owner found the card under his plate. He read it out loud. Then everyone started checking theirs. Greg's face went white. The owner started yelling. They cleared everyone out and closed the doors. We could hear them shouting inside for an hour. I asked if anyone said anything about me. Paula was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "They know it was you. They just do not know what to do about it yet." I thanked her and hung up. Part of me felt satisfied. Good. Let them panic. Let them scramble. Let them feel what it is like when your world shifts and you cannot control it. But another part of me felt something else. Something I did not expect. Doubt. Not about whether they deserved it. They did. But about whether I had thought this through. Whether I had considered everything. Whether I was ready for what came next. I got my daughter ready for school. I made her breakfast. I braided her hair. I did all the normal things, and she did not notice anything was different. That is what you do when you are a parent. You keep things normal even when your insides are screaming. After I dropped her off, I went to a coffee place near her school. Not one of the fancy ones. Just a regular place where working people stop for cheap drinks and a place to sit. I ordered something hot and sat by the window. My phone buzzed. A message from a number I did not recognize. When I opened it, my stomach dropped. It was from the owner. "We need to talk. Today, noon. You know where." I stared at the message for a long time. I could ignore it. I could block the number. I could pretend I never saw it, but that would just delay things. And I had not come this far to hide. I typed back, "I will be there." The hours until noon felt like days. I sat in that coffee place until they started looking at me strange for taking up space too long. Then I drove around. I parked near a playground and watched kids play. I thought about my daughter. I thought about what I was teaching her by doing this. Was I teaching her to stand up for herself? Or was I teaching her that hurting people back is the answer? At 11:45, I drove to the warehouse. The building looked the same as always. Gray walls, loading bay, small front entrance. I had walked through those doors 1,000 times, but today felt different. I parked and sat in my car for a few minutes. I could still leave. I could drive away, find another job, move on. But that felt like losing, like letting them win. So I got out and walked inside. The front area was empty. Usually there was someone at the small window where deliveries got signed in. But today, no one was there. I stood there, waiting, until I heard footsteps. It was the owner, not Greg, just him. He looked older than I remembered, tired. He gestured for me to follow him, and we walked through the warehouse to a small room in the back, the place where they did inventory counts. It smelled like cardboard and dust. He closed the door behind us. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "Why?" Not angry, not yelling, just tired. I could have said a lot of things. I could have listed every unfair thing Greg had done. I could have talked about the party, about being humiliated, about 3 years of loyalty meaning nothing. But instead, I just said, because someone needed to. He sat down on one of the stools they kept in there. He rubbed his face with both hands. "Do you know what you have done?" I said yes. He shook his head. "Those bloggers you sent the candles to. 3 of them posted this morning. By tonight, it will be everywhere. Our wholesale clients are already asking questions. Some of them are threatening to pull our products. Do you understand what that means?" I understood exactly what that meant. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something other than a boss. I saw a man who had built something and was watching it crack. That ingredient change. You are right. We knew. We should have pulled the product immediately. But we had so much stock, and the holidays were coming, and I thought we could just sell through it, and no one would get seriously hurt. I made a bad choice. I know that. I did not say anything. He kept talking. "Greg is my nephew, my sister's son. He was struggling, so I gave him a job. I thought it would help him grow up, learn responsibility. But he has been making mistakes since he got here. The way he treated you at the party, that was wrong. I should have stopped it. I should have said something. I wanted to feel sympathy. I wanted to feel like maybe this conversation would change something. But all I felt was cold. I asked him, "So what now?" He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "I cannot have you here anymore. You know that. But I am not going to call what you did sabotage or theft or anything legal. Because if I do, you will talk. You will tell people I knew about the wax problem. You will make this worse. So we are going to call this a mutual separation. I will give you 2 months of pay. You leave quietly. 2 months of pay. Like that fixed anything." I asked him, "What about Greg?" He sighed. "Greg is family, but he is not going to be managing people anymore. I am moving him somewhere he cannot cause more problems." I stood up. I did not shake his hand. I just walked out. As I left, I passed a few of the workers on the floor. They looked at me, but no one said anything. Paula gave me a small nod. Someone else turned away. I got in my car and drove. For the next week, I watched everything unfold from a distance. The bloggers posted like I knew they would. Their followers shared the posts. Local news picked it up, not because it was dangerous, but because it was a story about a business trying to hide something during the holidays. And people love that kind of story. The owner had to put out a statement. He apologized. He offered refunds. He promised better quality control, but the damage was done. People started asking what else the business was hiding. Wholesale clients pulled their orders. The boutique shops that had trusted them stopped returning calls. I found a new job within 2 weeks. Another warehouse, similar work, better pay. The manager there was fair. The people were fine. It was not perfect, but it was better. I thought I would feel satisfied. I thought watching them struggle would make me feel like I had won something. But instead, I felt hollow. Because 3 weeks after everything happened, Paula sent me another message. They cut hours. Half the warehouse is down to 3 days a week. Some people are looking for second jobs. It is bad. I read that message over and over. Those people had nothing to do with what Greg said to me. They did not humiliate me. They just worked there, same as I had. And now they were suffering because I had decided to burn the place down. I tried to tell myself it was not my fault. The owner made the choice to hide the wax problem. Greg made the choice to treat me badly. They brought this on themselves. But that did not change the fact that people who had done nothing wrong were now struggling to pay their bills. My daughter noticed I was quieter than usual. One night, after I put her to bed, she asked me if I was sad. I told her I was just tired. She looked at me with those big eyes and said, "Did something bad happen?" I did not know how to answer that, so I just hugged her and told her everything was fine. But it was not fine, because I had learned something I did not want to know. When you decide to hurt someone, you do not get to control who else gets hurt along the way. You do not get to choose where the damage stops. I had wanted them to feel what I felt. I had wanted them to understand what it is like when someone takes something from you that you cannot get back. And I had succeeded, but I had also taken something from people who never took anything from me. That is the part no one tells you about getting even. It feels good for about a week, maybe 2, and then you start seeing the edges of what you broke, and you realize that satisfaction does not last, but guilt does. I started having dreams where I was back at that party, but in the dreams, when Greg told me to eat outside, I just left quietly. I went home. I let it go. And somehow, in those dreams, everything was fine. I would wake up feeling strange, like maybe my brain was trying to tell me something. A month passed, then 2. The news about the business died down. People moved on to other stories, other scandals, but the damage stayed. I heard through Paula that they had to let go of 4 people permanently. Not Greg, of course, not the owner, just the people at the bottom who could not afford to lose their jobs. One of them was a woman named Kim. She was 52. She had worked there longer than me. She had a husband who was sick and could not work anymore. That job was their only income. Paula told me, Kim cried when they let her go. Not loud crying, just quiet tears while she packed up her things. I felt sick when I heard that. I told myself it was not my fault. I kept repeating it. They made the choice to hide the problem with the candles. They made the choice to treat people badly. They built a business on cutting corners and hoping no one would notice. But I was the one who made sure people noticed. I was the one who chose the timing. Right before the holidays, when it would hurt the most, I knew what I was doing. I wanted it to hurt, and it did. My daughter asked me one night why I seemed so far away. We were eating dinner, just the 2 of us like always, and she said, "Mama, are you listening?" I realized I had not heard anything she had been saying. I apologized. I asked her to repeat it. She told me about something that happened at school. A girl who had been mean to her friend. How her friend wanted to be mean back, but my daughter told her not to. I asked her why she said that. She looked at me like the answer was obvious. Because being mean back does not fix it. It just makes more people sad. 8 years old. And she understood something I had forgotten. That night, after she went to sleep, I sat on the floor of my bedroom and cried. Not pretty crying. Ugly, exhausting crying that made my chest hurt. I cried because I had become someone I did not recognize. someone who hurt people on purpose, someone who justified it by saying they deserved it. Maybe they did deserve something. Maybe Greg needed to learn that his actions have weight. Maybe the owner needed to face what happens when you prioritize profit over people. But Kim did not deserve to lose her job. Paula did not deserve to have her hours cut. The other workers did not deserve to watch the place fall apart and wonder if they would be next. I had drawn a line between the guilty and the innocent, and I had convinced myself I could hurt one without touching the other. But that is not how the world works. When you break something, the pieces fly everywhere. You do not get to decide where they land. 3 months after the party, I got a call from a number I did not know. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. It was Kim. I felt my whole body go tense. She said my name like a question. Beth? I said yes. There was a long pause. Then she said, I know what you did. My throat closed up. I could not speak. She kept talking. Paula told me about the party, about the cards, about the candles. I know it was you. I waited for her to yell, to tell me I had ruined her life, to say all the things I had been thinking about myself. But instead, she said, I wanted to tell you something. I barely managed to say okay. She said, what happened to me was not fair. Losing that job nearly destroyed us. My husband and I had to move in with my brother. I had to take work cleaning houses, which kills my back but pays enough to survive. It has been the hardest few months of my life. I felt tears running down my face. Then she said, but it was not your fault. I started to argue, but she cut me off. Listen to me. I worked there for 5 years. I saw what that place was becoming. I saw the owner make choices that saved him money, but made our lives harder. I saw Greg treat people like garbage and get away with it because of his last name. I saw all of it, and I stayed quiet because I needed the job. We all did. We all stayed quiet while things got worse. So what happened? What you did? Maybe it was not the right way. Maybe people got hurt who should not have. But that business was built on something rotten, and eventually it was going to fall apart anyway. You just sped it up. I did not know what to say. She said, I am not calling to thank you. I am calling to tell you that you do not have to carry all of this by yourself. The owner made his choices. Greg made his. And yeah, you made yours. But we all played a part in what that place was. So stop acting like you are the only villain in this story. After she hung up, I sat there for a long time, holding the phone. She was right, but she was also wrong. Yes, other people made bad choices, but I made mine with full knowledge of who would get hurt. I did not stumble into this. I planned it. I executed it. I wanted them to suffer. And they did. But so did people I never intended to harm. That is the thing about vengeance. You think you are being precise. You think you are targeting the guilty. But pain spreads. It does not stay where you put it. 4 months after everything happened, I saw Greg. I was picking up my daughter from school, standing outside the gates with the other parents, when I saw him across the street. He was getting out of a car. He looked thinner, tired. He saw me too. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then he crossed the street and walked toward me. Every part of me wanted to run, but I stayed. He stopped a few feet away. He did not look angry. He looked defeated. He said, my uncle sold the business last month. He could not keep it going. The new owners kept some people, let others go. I was one of the ones they let go. I did not say anything. He said, I know I was terrible to you. I know I had no right to say what I said at that party. I was trying to prove something, trying to show I was in charge. And I picked you because I thought you would not fight back. That makes me a coward. I know that now. I wanted to feel satisfaction hearing him admit it, but I just felt tired. He said, I do not expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I understand why you did what you did, and I am sorry. Then he walked away. My daughter came running out of the school gates, and I picked her up and held her tight. She asked me who that man was. I told her no one important, but that was a lie. He was important, not because I cared about him, but because seeing him reminded me of something I had been trying to forget. Hurting someone does not make you whole. It does not give back what they took. It just adds more hurt to the world. 6 months after the party, I was doing okay. The new job was stable. My daughter was happy. We had a routine that worked, but I could not stop thinking about the warehouse workers, the ones who lost their jobs, the ones who lost hours, the ones who had to scramble to survive because of something I set in motion. So I did something. I do not know if it helped. I do not know if it fixed anything, but I had to try. I started looking for places that were hiring, places that needed workers, that paid decent, that treated people fairly. When I found them, I reached out to Paula and asked her to spread the word. I gave her a list of businesses, contact names, positions open. I could not get anyone their old job back, but maybe I could help them find new ones. Paula sent the list around. A few people reached out to thank me. A few got interviews. 2 got hired. It was not enough. It did not undo the damage, but it was something. My daughter asked me one day why I was spending so much time on the computer looking at job listings for other people. I told her I was trying to help some friends who needed it. She said, "That is nice, Mama." And for the first time in months, I felt like maybe I was teaching her the right thing after all. Not that you should let people hurt you. Not that you should stay quiet when something is wrong. But that when you fight back, you have to be ready for what comes after. You have to be ready to see all the pieces you broke and decide if you can live with it. I do not regret standing up for myself. I do not regret exposing what that business was hiding. People deserve to know the truth, but I do regret not thinking about who else would pay the price. I regret not considering that my actions would ripple out beyond the people I was angry at. If I could go back, would I do it differently? I do not know. Maybe I would have found another way. Maybe I would have just left and found a new job and moved on. Or maybe I would have done exactly the same thing, because in that moment, it felt like the only option that gave me back any power. What I do know is this: getting even does not make you feel better for long. It burns bright and fast, and then it leaves you standing in the ashes, wondering what you actually won. I won my dignity back, maybe. I won the satisfaction of watching someone who hurt me face consequences. But I lost the version of myself who believed that doing the right thing always leads to the right outcome. Because sometimes there is no right outcome. Sometimes every choice costs something, and you just have to decide which cost you can live with. A year after that party, the business that bought out the owner reopened under a new name. They hired back some of the old workers. Not all of them, but some. I heard they treat people better. I heard the new management actually listens. Maybe something good came from all of it. Maybe not. I will never really know. What I do know is that I am different now. I do not stay quiet when something is wrong, but I also do not assume that burning everything down is the answer. My daughter is 9 now. She is smart and kind and strong. She stands up for her friends. She speaks up when something is unfair. And when she asks me for advice about how to handle someone who hurt her, I tell her the truth. I tell her that standing up for yourself matters, that your voice matters, that no one has the right to make you feel small. But I also tell her that how you fight back matters too, that actions have weight, that sometimes winning means everyone loses something. She does not fully understand yet, but she will, and maybe, by the time she does, I will have figured out how to forgive myself for the things I broke while trying to prove I mattered. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for hearing all of it, even the hard parts. Even the parts where I was not the hero. If this story meant something to you, if it made you think or feel something, I would be grateful if you would let me know. Leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to hear more stories like this, real and raw and honest, subscribe, because we all have stories. We all have moments where we had to choose between staying quiet and fighting back. And maybe, by sharing them, we can help each other figure out how to do it better. This is my story. This is what happened when I decided I mattered enough to fight back. And this is what I learned about the cost of getting even.